In a dramatic twist, the ongoing tariff battle has escalated to the highest court in the United States. This legal showdown could redefine presidential powers and reshape the country's trade policies for years to come. But here's where it gets controversial. Does the president truly have the authority to impose tariffs under emergency powers? A federal appeals court recently ruled that President Trump exceeded his executive authority when he invoked emergency measures to alter U.S. trade policy. While the court acknowledged this overreach, it allowed the tariffs to stay in place until mid-October to prevent chaos while the administration prepares to take the case to the Supreme Court. And true to form, by Tuesday, President Trump confirmed his intention to do just that, swiftly bringing the matter before the nation's top judicial body. On Wednesday evening, the Trump administration formally petitioned the U.S. Supreme Court to expedite its review of the appeals court's decision. Solicitor General John Saar urged the justices not only to hear the case, but also to fast-track it due to its immense significance. He emphasized the need to clarify the legality of the president's tariffs without delay. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent echoed these concerns within the filing, warning that Friday night's ruling was already undermining ongoing trade negotiations. World leaders, he noted, were questioning the president's authority, delaying talks, or recalibrating their strategies entirely. Bessent further argued that waiting until June, a full 9 months away, for a resolution would result in the government collecting up to $1 trillion in tariffs. Reversing such massive revenue streams later would create economic turmoil far worse than addressing the issue now. So, how is the economy holding up amidst all this uncertainty? Let's break it down. The second quarter gross domestic product (GDP), after revisions, showed growth at 3.3% on an annualized basis. However, this figure can be misleading. A sharp decline in imports disproportionately contributed to this number, overshadowing other factors. In my view, the metric that paints a clearer picture is final sales to domestic purchasers, which grew at a modest 1.9%. That rate likely reflects Q2 economic activity more accurately than almost any other measure. Meanwhile, gross domestic income, GDI, surged by 4.8%, making it clear that averaging GDP and GDI wouldn't provide an accurate snapshot given the skewed data from the second quarter. Adding another layer of insight, the Federal Reserve released its latest Beige Book report on Wednesday afternoon. Officially known as the Summary of Commentary on Current Economic Conditions, this document compiles anecdotal evidence from the Fed's 12 regional districts. Each edition rotates among different branches, and yes, the physical copy sports a beige cover, hence the nickname. What did the Beige Book reveal this time around? The report painted a mixed picture. Most districts reported little to no change in overall economic activity since the last update, with only 4 districts noting modest growth. Consumer spending remained sluggish, largely because wage growth failed to keep pace with rising prices. Labor markets told a similar story. 11 districts saw little net change in employment levels, while 1 district experienced a slight decline. 7 districts highlighted employer hesitation to hire due to weak demand or uncertainty about the future. On inflation, 10 districts described price increases as moderate or modest, though 2 districts flagged stronger input costs, outpacing selling price hikes. Economic activity expanded in Boston, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Richmond, Chicago, and Dallas, while New York, Atlanta, Minneapolis, and San Francisco reported contraction. Both St. Louis and Kansas City described conditions as flat compared to the previous period. This week's economic calendar has been shuffled slightly due to Monday's holiday. Typically, the ADP employment report kicks things off on Wednesday, but instead, we'll see it Thursday morning. Meanwhile, the Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey, JOLTS, for July set the stage earlier in the week. According to the JOLTS report, job openings fell to 7.181 million in July, down from 6.36 million in June and below economists' expectations of 7.38 million. This marks the weakest month for job openings since September 2024, and the second weakest since January 2021. Employee quits, a gauge of worker confidence, hit their lowest point in 2025, though they remain above 2024 levels. Amidst these developments, billionaire investor Ray Dalio weighed in on social media following what he perceived as mischaracterizations of his Financial Times interview. Dalio's comments sparked thought-provoking discussions. For instance, he warned that we're nearing the end of a major debt cycle and cautioned against complacency. If policymakers don't adapt, he wrote, we'll face a debt service crisis coupled with supply-demand imbalances that could trigger a debt-induced economic collapse. Later, he pointed out that international holders of dollar-denominated bonds are shifting assets into gold amid growing geopolitical tensions. Dalio's remarks reminded me of two insightful books I'd recommend to anyone pondering these issues. First, Endgame, The End of the Debt Supercycle and How It Changes Everything by John Malden offers a deep dive into the implications of mounting debt. Second, Currency Wars, The Making of the Next Global Crisis by James Rickards explores how monetary conflicts could shape our financial future. Turning to financial markets, Treasury securities rallied on Wednesday, though equities offered little clarity. Some stocks took hits, including a few favorites of mine. Was Wednesday simply a lull? Not necessarily. While some analysts might label Tuesday a bearish reversal, I'm skeptical. Interestingly, the technology sector SPDR ETF, XLK, rose 0.6% despite tepid performances from related indices like the Dow Jones U.S. Software Index, plus 0.05%. and the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index, minus 0.23%. The unsung hero? The Dow Jones U.S. Computer Hardware Index soared 3.64%, buoyed by Apple's impressive 3.81% gain following yesterday's Alphabet-related news. And speaking of tech, C3.ai Inc. faced overnight losses after missing earnings expectations by a wide margin. The company reported a staggering 10.4% year-over-year drop in sales and announced leadership changes, replacing CEO Thomas Siebel with Stephen Ahikian, a Trump ally. Looking ahead, today's economic agenda includes key releases such as the ADP employment report, balance of trade figures, and weekly jobless claims. Investors will also watch speeches from Federal Reserve officials like New York Fed President John Williams and Chicago Fed President Austin Goolsbee. As always, earnings season continues with reports from companies like Broadcom, Lululemon, and DocuSign. What are your thoughts on the tariff debate? Do you agree with Dalio's warnings, or do you think there's room for optimism? Share your perspective in the comments. I'd love to hear from you.